Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homeschool Moms Podcast. I have with me today Lucia. She is an artist, a creator, and an author, and she ignites the imaginations of children and their parents. So she does this through her limited edition animals and touching storybooks. She's the founder of Curiously Curated Creations. She's going to tell us all about what she does today. First of all, welcome, Christina.
Thank you for having me. It's really an honor to be here and be in front of your audience and share my story and what I'm up to here.
Yes, I would love to hear more about what you're up to. But first of all, I want you to share about yourself. So tell us about who you are. Who is Christina? What are you all about? And tell us about your family.
Absolutely. So I actually am located in New York City. However, I grew up in a small farm town in rural Massachusetts. Literally to this day, there is one real traffic light. And if you're not used to it, you will wake up to the roosters. So completely opposite of where I live right now. I never really belonged. I never really fit in the environment I grew up in. And one thing I did know is I always knew I was an artist. From a very young age, I was drawing and doing creative things. And I was lucky enough to be put in the path of a teacher who recognized my potential. Normally, she would take children 9 years old, at least 9. You had to be at least 9 to start her art program. She took me on at 7. And that was, now as I get further on my journey, I realized that was my first moment where someone recognized me, recognized my identity, and gave me a space where I could excel and I could belong. When I was 10, my parents took us here to New York for a Broadway show and like a little long weekend. And I took one look at the city and fell in love with it. I told both my parents I'm going to live here. And they looked at me and were like, "You're 10. You're 10. How do you know this?" But I'm an overachiever. And I'm very adamant about what I say and what I do. And at 18, I moved here and I've been here ever since. And so I've been on a healing journey for several years now, in a sense that I realized that not belonging as a kid actually never went away. It translated in different areas of my life. And that healing journey led me to realize I am a creative. I was living a double life where I was working in corporate. I was working on Wall Street and I was drawing and competitively dancing, like in the background, not letting people really know if they asked me. And an injuries made me pause. And it was a friend that came over when I was injured and said, "You can't keep doing this." And I was back on the dance floor before I was back in the office. And that started my pivot. And when I started that pivot, I realized after a year that I'm an entrepreneur. And the deeper I got into my healing process, and even where I am right now, as I'm still going through it, I realized the importance of communication. And I realized a lot of why I didn't belong is because I wasn't raised around people that matched my interests. But I also realized because there wasn't communication, there wasn't effective sharing our feelings in a way that we're heard, in a way that we're able to identify with each other, a lot of other things fell off the wagon. And that really inspired me to be like, you know what, I have a choice and I have a responsibility. And I made a choice in my personal life to work on this. I made a choice to learn how to talk about my feelings, which I'm still learning about. It's not a one-day process. But realizing that, I realized the importance of that mission. And when I realized the importance of the mission, I'm like, this is what my books are about. This is how my art is going to take another level. This is how my characters, the toys I create, are going to take another level. Because I've always been drawing, and I've been a crocheter and a knitter for a long time now. So that was pretty natural. And again, also another way that I've had to work through this, I had imposter syndrome about being a writer. I didn't think I was a writer at first. I really struggled with that. Like, even with all this healing work, I'm still going through imposter syndrome. And I became a blogger first. And then someone said, no, you're a really strong writer. I'm like, oh, I'm a writer. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not just an artist and a dancer. I'm also a writer. Like I can do this. And that's really what my personal journey has made me realize, is that I am a godmother.
Mm.
And I do feel I did make the choice to be the best version of myself for them as well as for myself. And with what I'm writing, I see it as an opportunity to shine light that you can do a complete 180 or a 365. Like you can turn the tables and you can take something that wasn't so great and turn into something really beautiful and add value to others.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
thank you.
It's a really beautiful story. I got so wrapped up into it. I don't know what to say now. It's so good. Okay, so I'm wondering, because I kept hearing you say change, like you or decision. You said you made the decision to make a change. I think that that's
Yes.
the starting point for many of us. And we're talking to homeschool moms, and we all have something inside of us that we feel like we're called to do. We're all very unique and very, very different. And
Yeah.
sometimes we don't know how to get started in those things that we're feeling like we're called to do, but we don't know how to just jump in there and start doing it. Maybe because
Yeah.
we're busy with homeschooling, maybe because of life, right? But then
Yeah.
what you said is you made a decision. And you made a decision starting at 10 years old. You said, I'm going to live in New York. I'm going to, you made decisions that were so definite for you. And the other thing that I noticed is when you mentioned the imposter syndrome, that you admitted that you went through that. We all have gone through imposter syndrome. Most of us don't even talk about it, but it's so true that that's the thing that holds us back from finding our next steps in life, is that we're afraid that, am I good enough? Or do I really have what it takes? Or what about all the people who have already been so successful? But
Yeah.
I love that you push past that. And so you started to
Yeah.
create first by blogging, and then you
Yes.
tapped into your writing skills. So, because you've always been a
Yes.
writer. Okay. So you started writing
Yes.
and illustrating though, right? Are you both writing and illustrating your book?
Yes. So yes, doing both. Yeah. So I've been formally training in art since I was 7 years old. Both my degrees are in the art, and I've always been drawing in one way or another. Actually, my characters in my series, their main portraits are behind me in the video. But I also do other mediums. Because I'm a dancer, I do draw dancers in ink. I'm a fan of pointillism, Surratt. Everyone knows Surratt Sunday in the Park. I do pointillism. I also do the cross hatch technique, which is when you draw lines one way and then the other, and you create texture and dimension that way. I also draw Disney characters as well. And when I do Disney characters, I make it, when I do it, I see it as a respect to the artist that created those characters.
Mhm.
It's a very much studying the shapes and studying the lines, because the beauty about original Disney work is they're all different. And one of the things I found when I was drawing Disney is my sister is a big fan of Sleeping Beauty. So I've done a lot of Princess Auroras for, like, in honor of her. Princess Aurora is actually really hard because she has a chin like Medusa. Medusa, excuse me, Maleficent.
Uh-huh.
Maleficent's chin is just a little bit sharper. And my sister's engagement present, I actually, for her and my brother-in-law, I drew them like a mural, a 16 by 20, 18 by 24 drawing of Princess Aurora as Briar Rose and, Prince Philip and all the animals. And again, it was a challenge for her because of that chin. But again, I do feel if you're going to draw someone else's art, there's a responsibility there, there's a respect there. And when I started drawing my own characters, it was actually harder for me because I had to make it my own. I knew I need to tap in. I've been drawing long enough where I'm like, since I was a kid, like, it's like, no, I need to identify what's me, what's Christina Lucia. And if I reach a point in my life, which I do pray for this brand, I mean, I love for it to go to animation, and I'm not an animator, but I would expect that same respect to be bestowed upon me. And I think that's something I've learned. And then the other thing I draw too is I love drawing people. My nephew is one of my favorite people to draw. And I tend to use pencil when I draw people because all our faces, all our contours, I can't quite get that with watercolor or ink. So I do enjoy that. But yeah, and this book series, to be honest, again, going back to imposter syndrome, it's made me stand on my own 2 feet and say, no, I am the illustrator. I am the author, because I was blogging for, even though I've been drawing a lot longer than I've been writing, because I have the blogs and because the story always comes before the visual, that was, people would see the writing first. And I can tell you how many people turned to me and said, well, are you qualified to draw your own books? And I was like, well, I've been trained since I was 7 years old and I have 2 degrees in art. I think I am. And then all of a sudden it's like silence. But again, it was a lesson for me to stand on my own 2 feet. And there were other things that have come up in writing these books where I've learned to stand up. And I've said, I have an amazing editor and we had a really deep conversation. And I'm a Catholic woman and there is a slight hint of Christianity. Bella says our blessings at the end of every book. Like, I don't believe in forcing my religion on people. Like, I believe it's more, you should choose it, not me choose it for you. But there is that subtle hint. And my girls are in dresses, my boys are in pants, because I'm very feminine. I'm very much a girly girl. But at the same time, I wanted to create a space where everyone is welcome, where there's a sense of humanity, because at the end of the day, we all work from the same feelings list. And I wanted my friends, whether it's the friend that has the daughter who's now in college, or it's the friend that is just starting off with their new baby, or it's a friend in a different area of the world, like they're all comfortable. It's not about excluding anyone, it's about welcoming everybody and everyone feeling welcome. And I wanted to be authentic. Yeah. Which is why the main character radiates a lot of me, because I wanted to write about things that I can relate to. That I shouldn't say it that way. Not that I can relate to, but things that I've gone through that I can relate confidently. But that's where my editor comes in, is she's the one that cross-checks it. And is this relatable to people? Yeah. Is this relatable to the kid in Texas? Is this relatable to the kid in Germany? You know what I mean? Like, I want everyone to feel comfortable. Like, I was bullied a lot in school and even in my adult life. And I don't want that for anybody else. Mm. I can't protect everyone, even myself. Like, my healing journey has taught me to deal with those traumas. Okay, they happened. You work through them. But if I can provide a space where people can choose to enter, like, to me, that's the best gift you can give to someone.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's so good. That's so good.
Thank you.
Many people have gone through what you have, and we all need to go through healing, right? We all need and have the gift that you have to be able to share that gift with the world and be inclusive and be willing to share what you have to help people go through their healing journey. It's a beautiful thing that we're using what God has given us to heal other people. So I love that you're doing that. And then I want to know about we know that there's some benefits of sitting down with our kids and engaging in these activities together. So you've created these books, you worked with your editor, you've been illustrating your books. So how can your books help us as parents to sit with our children and actually engage with them, even though we're really busy? How do we use your books as a tool to help us to facilitate that engagement with our kids?
Absolutely. So every book follows a very similar format where there's going to be 15 books in all. I'm working on the fifth of the first five right now, and we're gearing for the first three to come out in spring 2023. I have purposely chosen in the first five, as well as the next 10, transitions and skills that we all go through, or events. Like, for example, some of the future titles, Bella, because I'm a traveler and I love Italy and I love Paris. So of course Bella has to go there, but she's going to deal with things that we all deal with, like boredom on the plane or homesickness or something like that. But I also focus on Bella learning to read, Bella shifting from her crib to her big girl bed, etc. And in every book, when she's going through the skill or transition, she experiences frustration. And the parent gives her space for relatability, meaning that the parent says, her mom says, well, I got scared when daddy and I moved into this new house. And she's like, oh, you did. As an adult, we get scared. And then she's given a special gift to help her work through the transition. Like in the bed book, it's a lovey. And when she's able to sleep in her big girl bed, she's able to help her friend Annie Puppy with a similar fear. The way I do is I create a reader's guide in the back of every book. And it's a gentle suggestion because every family is different. And you need to be able to apply it to your family. And to me, what I'm going for there is so you can read the book with your child, but then on your own with your spouse or your partner, you can look at the reader's guide yourself and take that out. The other piece that I have, because again, you could read the story and your kid could start talking about the book, or a couple of days later, they could start talking about on the way to the grocery store, on the way to school, etc. The other piece that I have is I always create a coloring book with every story. And I actually have a gift for your audience. I always create freebies for this reason. And I always focus on coloring activities. My pumpkin activity kit, which is out right now, and I always have it on my website too, has a little bit more, but I always feature a coloring drawing. And I always have those coloring books also to coordinate with each book, because coloring is a meditative activity. So it's not only for you, it's not only for your child, it's also for you. Because like you said, you're busy, you're tired, you're human.
Yes.
You need a break too. You need 5 minutes to yourself. Like if it's like, I've heard some of my girlfriends tell me, oh, I hide in the closet for 5 minutes. Like, I just need to I just need peace and quiet. I mean, we need that. We're all human. Mm-hmm. And so coloring is something that you can do with or without your child. And also coloring, because it is meditative, it's a great way to release our energies and to allow conversations to formulate. And I've actually been interviewed by women. Like one of my friends had me on her podcast, and she has a podcast that focuses on teaching your children how to budget. And we actually talked about having different coloring materials out on the table. And if one runs out, speaking to your child and the child wants more of that, speaking to them, we need to budget, we need to wait until we use this before we buy this. So there's a lot of creativity that we can do, and we can meditate. And reading with your child, whether it's coloring or reading with your child, again, it's something that can be fit into a routine.
Right.
And it's something that can be done repetitively, because even as a grown woman, I noticed even myself, it's like brushing your teeth. I mean? Like I say with my business, like I'm literally Bella even now as a grown woman. There are days where I'm like, if someone said, Christina, as an entrepreneur, how are you like Bella in this book? I could probably tell you in a heartbeat. I'm like, I'm exactly like her because I'm going through this right now. But there is something about the repetitiveness and getting into a rhythm. And if you're in a rhythm of reading a book to your child, and your child's in that rhythm of remembering things the character's doing. Again, every child is different, but I've spoken to parents that say, my kids will mention things like, so-and-so did this in the book. We should do this for mommy, or we should do this for daddy. And it does open that up. And so that's the strategy and format I'm looking for, because again, I'm looking to provide tools. Like I'm looking to give you that moment of peace in your day, the opportunity to be who you are, be the mom you are. Like unfortunately, I watched my mom shelve herself in many ways as a mother. And I have to respect that, because that was her choice. But at the same time, I realized it doesn't have to be that. Like my mom would always say, oh, I used to golf when I was single, and I don't golf anymore because I have to take care of you guys. Like, no, Ma, you can still golf. Like, you're not a bad person if you want to go and golf once a week. Like, you're not a terrible human being. And that's also what I'm going for. Even though I write about that directly in my books, like I do have a blog that mirrors more of that. But like in my books, like that is what I'm going for in a subtle way, that you're allowed to like let your child play with what they're on, and you can go somewhere else. Like it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay
And
to get a babysitter.
that's one of the things that I always try to reiterate on my podcast is the self-care of the homeschool mom. The self-care. That is so it's so important, and it's such a tricky topic because everyone has their comfort level with, how much they can sort of pull away from baby or from child in order to
Yeah.
tune in with themselves. And so even though our comfort levels are different, it's good not to, like you said, not to neglect ourselves because we're
Right.
important too, right?
Yes,
As we're raising our children,
absolutely.
we need to take care of ourselves as well. So I love that you mentioned that because that's actually one of the things that I talk about a lot, like taking care of
Oh,
ourselves. So important.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
no, I always see it as like, because again, when my mom was ill and passed, I remember people judging me for, leaving for a few days and coming back to New York because my family's located out of state.
Okay.
And I said no. And to this day, her death anniversary was 2 days ago. And I said no. I stood up for myself. I said, I am not a bad human being.
That's right.
It is physically draining to have a parent that's ill. And my job, sorry, I'm getting a little like self-righteous right now, but my job for my mom, because the tables were turned.
Mhm.
When your parent is that ill, your job is to be positive. Your job is to be positive and be present. And I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I just need a few days. I'll be back. And I'm not a bad person because I can't be there for her if I'm not emotionally available for her. And that's something that I especially why I started writing my second blog, because I see how my mom developed this story of she survived on control. My mom sincerely did. She just survived on control. And I was a trigger for her because I'm a free spirit. I'm overly creative. And that was one of our butt the head moments
Wow.
because I've always been outrageously creative. I've always been a dancer. I've always been an artist in multiple ways. Like knitting, crocheting came to me so naturally. And my mom was a sewer, and like I learned to sew from her, but she capped it at that. And she had this story about herself. I'm not creative like you. I don't have your talent, Christina. I can't dance like you. But the reality was she was creative, and again, if children are listening, I'm just going to do a quick, like, if it's okay if I say this, like a quick, like turn down the volume moment
Okay.
with okay, so volume's probably down right now. So with our Santa gifts, my mom would write in her left hand. Now, when you're doing healing work, that's a sign of creativity. That's a sign of like tapping into your inner child. But things like, but she was creative in her own way, but she developed this story. Oh, I'm not creative. I have to be this kind of mom, da, da, da. And it's like, no, Ma, you can. Like, you are creative in your own way. And so witnessing that myself, and now as an aunt and a godmother, and seeing what my girlfriends are going through, and my own sister, my sister's an amazing mom and she's killing it. She's doing great. And sometimes she'll share things with me and I'll say, hey, I'm here. Just let me know what you need. Do you need me to stay a day longer and take care of the baby, your toddler? Like, I'm happy to do that. But again, I think goes back to, for me personally, I relate to it as my own imposter syndrome, this idea like I have to be this way. And I do believe, so I fully agree with what you're saying about the self-care. It's about by taking care of ourselves, we're able to be the best version of ourselves.
Mhm.
And our best version is what we want everyone around us to be. And it's really magical when that happens. It's really
Yes,
powerful.
it absolutely is. Thank you for those
Yeah.
words of encouragement. Uh,
Oh, thank you.
I also do you want to just share with us where we can get these activities or an example of these
Sure.
activities that you've provided for us? Where
Yeah.
can we find it?
Absolutely. So I have a link that I'll have for you for the show notes where you can access that.
Okay.
And for those ladies out there that are planners like myself, I actually revised the email you'll receive to include the Thanksgiving playmat as well. So just in case, like, you're kind of like, well, wait, I want something for my kids for the Thanksgiving holiday as well. So that will be also like within the email. And I will provide you my website, www.triplecokl.com. And I always have the freebies there. And I do a newsletter where I announce when there's a new freebie. I always announce when I have new press, like this podcast, like I always announce things like that. I do have 2 different blogs I write. I am gearing up for this launch. So I'm sending out updates as I'm allowed to. I'm like gearing up. I'm like, we're going. I'm like on a roller coaster right now. It's like ready to go. So it's very exciting. And I would love to keep your audience aware of that. We have some exciting stuff coming up.
That sounds exciting, Christina. It was such a pleasure to talk with you today. I really enjoyed the encouragement you brought and the transparency and just your true authentic self. That's what we need. That's what we're looking for. And thank you so much for being yourself and being who you are.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was really a joy. Thank you.